Nobody tells you the truth when you start gardening. They hand you a packet of seeds. They say, water it and give it sun. And they send you off like that is the whole story. And then you spend 2, 3, sometimes 5 seasons quietly failing, watching your plants sulk and yellow and die while you have absolutely no idea what you are doing wrong. And slowly, season by season, you start to believe the lie that you just were not born with the gift, that some people have a green thumb and you got a brown one. I want to take those years back for you right now in this video, because here is what I have figured out after a long time with dirt permanently under my fingernails, and it changed everything. Gardening is not a talent you are born with. It is not luck. It is not a gift. It is not some magic in certain people's hands. It is a short list of secrets that nobody bothers to tell beginners. And the moment you know them, the entire thing stops being a mystery and just clicks into place, like a lock finally turning. I have got 12 of those secrets for you today. The exact 12 I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me on day one, before all the waste and seed and dead seedlings. And I will be straight with you. Number 6 genuinely stopped me cold the first time I truly understood it, because it is the direct opposite of what every caring instinct in your body is screaming at you to do. It is the one that breaks the rule. We're going to get there, but I want to build you up to it the right way, because the first 5 are what make number 6 make sense. So, here is how this is going to go. We start at the very bottom, underground, with the thing everything else grows out of, and we climb up from there, secret by secret, until the whole picture comes together. By the end, you are going to see your garden completely differently than you do right now. Quick one before we dig in, and it ties right into all of this. Drop a comment and tell me the very first thing you ever tried to grow. And be honest, did it live or did you murder it? We have all got at least one plant on our conscience. Mine was a tomato that I loved so aggressively with a watering can that I basically drowned it inside of 2 weeks, which, spoiler, is going to come up again later in this list. Tell me yours down below, because I read every single comment, and it genuinely helps me figure out what you all want me to cover next. All right, let's get into it. Number 1 secret is the one that reframes everything else. So we start here, at the bottom, in the dark. You are not growing plants. You are growing soil, and the soil grows the plants. Read that again. Sit with it, because it is the entire game, and almost nobody tells beginners this. Every single beginner pours all their attention onto the plant, the leaves, the flowers, the fruit, the parts they can see and touch and photograph. And they completely ignore the dark stuff underneath their feet that they cannot see. But a plant is really just a mirror held up to the soil it stands in. Rich, alive, crumbly, dark soil full of organic matter and worms and life grows plants that practically raise themselves. Poor, tired, compacted, lifeless soil grows plants that struggle and disappoint no matter how much you hover and fuss and worry over them. So the great secret, the one underneath all the others, is to stop obsessing over the plant and start feeding the ground. Compost, rotted leaves, organic matter, anything that pours life back into the dirt. Get the soil right. And I am telling you, half of the other 11 secrets on this list stop even being problems. Because a plant in great soil shrugs off the things that kill a plant in bad soil. This is the foundation. Everything else on this list is just built on top of it. Number 2 secret, and this one saves so much heartbreak once it clicks. Your plant is always talking to you. It cannot use words, so it talks with its leaves, its color, its posture. And once you learn to read that language, you are holding a diagnostic tool more powerful and more honest than anything you could ever buy in a store. Let me teach you a few phrases. Yellow leaves down low on the plant, spreading upward. That usually means it is either hungry for nitrogen or drowning from too much water. New leaves coming in yellow, while the little veins inside them stay green. That is a completely different kind of hunger. usually a nutrient the plant cannot reach. Leaves curling inward, dark spots appearing, wilting hard in the afternoon heat, but perking back up by evening, crispy brown edges creeping in. Every one of those is a specific sentence your plant is speaking directly to you. And here is the tragedy. Beginners walk right past all of it, day after day, and only snap to attention when the plant is already half dead and it is too late to do much. The gardener who succeeds is not smarter or more gifted. They are just the one who slows down, kneels down, and actually looks, who treats those leaves like the messages they are. Your plants will tell you exactly what they need, clearly and early, long before the situation becomes fatal. You just have to learn to listen with your eyes. Secret number 3 is about water, and it is where nearly every single beginner goes wrong. Me very much included for my first few years. You think watering is about frequency, about how often. It is actually about depth, about how deep. A little splash every single day feels loving, feels responsible, feels like exactly what a good gardener does, and it is quietly training your plant to be weak and to fail. Here is the mechanism, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. When you only ever wet the top inch of soil, your plant's roots have zero reason to go searching deeper, because all the water they need is right there at the surface. So they stay shallow, clustered right up top, fragile and completely dependent on you showing up every day. Then one hot afternoon you skip a day or you go away for a weekend, the surface bakes bone dry and your plant just collapses because it never built the deep root system that would have carried it through. The secret is to water deeply and infrequently. One long, slow, thorough soak once or twice a week, enough to send water down several inches into the soil, which teaches those roots to chase it downward and build a deep, strong, drought-proof foundation. Fewer waterings, much more water each time. I know it feels wrong. I know every instinct says water more often. Do it anyway and watch what happens. Hold on to this one, by the way, because it connects directly to the shocking one coming up. Secret number 4 is a mindset flip that genuinely changes how you feel every single time you walk out into your garden. Bugs are not the enemy. I know. That sounds insane the first time you hear it, especially when you are standing over a lettuce leaf that's something clearly treated as a buffet last night. But stay with me, because a healthy, living garden is supposed to be full of insects, and the overwhelming majority of them are either completely harmless or actively working for you for free. The ladybug devouring the aphids, the bee pollinating your squash and cucumbers so they can even form fruit in the first place, the spider quietly hunting pests in the dark while you sleep, the earthworm building your soil beneath your feet. When a panicked beginner sprays everything that moves at the first sign of a chewed leaf, they wipe out that entire free workforce along with the one pest they were angry at. And the garden comes out weaker, more fragile, and more dependent on them spraying again next time. It becomes a trap. The secret is to take a breath. Learn the small handful of bugs that actually cause real trouble in your area. Deal only and specifically with those, and let everyone else keep doing their jobs. A garden humming and buzzing with life is not a garden in trouble. It is a garden that is working exactly the way it is supposed to. Secret number 5 is the one that makes a tiny garden produce like a big one. And almost no beginner does it because nobody explains it to them. It is called succession planting, and the idea is beautifully simple. You do not plant everything all at once. The natural beginner instinct is to get excited and put all your lettuce or all your beans or all your radishes into the ground on the same Saturday afternoon. And it works, sort of, right up until every bit of it is ready to harvest in the exact same 7-day window, handing you a mountain of food you could not possibly eat before it goes bad, followed by long, empty weeks of nothing at all. Feast, then famine. Instead, you plant a little bit at a time, staggered. A short row of lettuce today, Another short row 2 weeks from now. Another 2 weeks after that. Now, instead of 40 heads of lettuce all screaming to be eaten at once, you are picking a fresh handful every week for months on end. Same square footage, same total effort, a completely transformed result. This single trick is what makes even a small backyard plot feel genuinely generous all season long. And it sets you up perfectly to understand the big one, because it is also about resisting the urge to do everything at maximum all at once. It is the difference between a garden that gives you one overwhelming party and then goes quiet, and a garden that quietly keeps setting a place at your table week after week. Now, secret number 6. This is the one I promised you at the start, the one that stopped me cold. And I need you to genuinely hear me out on this, because it is going to sound completely backwards, maybe even a little cruel, and it is hands down the most counterintuitive thing in all of gardening. You ready? Here it is. You have to let your plants struggle. You actually have to make them a little uncomfortable, a little stressed, on purpose, with intention. Let that sit for a second, because I know it sounds wrong. Here is the shocking part, the part that took me years to accept even after I had heard it. A plant that gets everything handed to it, constant water, endlessly rich, pampered conditions, zero adversity, never a hard day in its life, grows up soft, weak, shallow-rooted, and completely helpless. And then it falls apart at the very first sign of real stress. The first heat wave, the first missed watering, because it never had to build any resilience. It is all show and no strength, but a plant that has to reach a little for its water, that goes through a bit of dry in between drinks, that has to actually work for what it gets, sends its roots deeper, builds a tougher stem, and becomes stronger, more productive, and more resilient in every single way that matters. Think about that. We are all walking around believing that love means comfort, that a good gardener is a gentle, constant, protective one, and in the garden, too much comfort is actually neglect wearing a disguise. The single kindest thing you can do for most plants is to stop coddling them. Let the soil dry out between those deep waterings we talked about in Secret 3. Let the roots get a little thirsty and go searching. A measured dose of controlled hardship is precisely what forges the strongest, healthiest, most productive plants. And here is the part that will really get you. It usually produces the best flavor, too. A slightly stressed tomato concentrates its sugars and tastes incredible, while a pampered, overwatered one just bloats up fat and watery and bland. Every protective instinct you have is going to scream at you to water more, to shield, to fuss, to rescue. And learning to do the opposite, within reason, on purpose, is the exact thing that separates the frustrated beginner from the person quietly growing the best food on the block. That is why it is number 6. It does not just teach you a new rule. It breaks a rule you did not even realize you had been following your whole life. The belief that more care always means more love. In the garden, sometimes the most loving thing is to step back and let them fight a little. Let me pause for just a bit here, because if number 6 rearranged something in your head the way it did in mine, then this channel is exactly where you want to be. This is the whole thing I do here. The real reasons gardens work or fail. The stuff nobody tells beginners. Explained plainly, with no sponsors, and nothing being sold to you between the lines. Following along just means the next one finds you when it drops. No pressure at all. And honestly, the 6 secrets still coming are some of the most practical on the whole list. So stay with me, because we are about to get very hands-on. Once that one really sinks in, everything after it gets easier, because you finally stop working against your plants and start working with how they are actually built to grow. Which brings us to secret number 7. More is not better, and nowhere is that truer than with fertilizer. Beginners treat feeding a plant like feeding a pet. The logic being more food equals a happier, bigger, healthier plant. But dump too much fertilizer on a vegetable, especially the high nitrogen kind, and you trigger an explosion of big, gorgeous, dark green leaves and almost no actual food, because the plant pours every bit of that energy into growing foliage and never gets around to making fruit. You end up standing there proudly next to the biggest, greenest, bushiest tomato plant on the entire street, with maybe two sad little tomatoes hiding somewhere in all that jungle. And it gets worse, because all those excess fertilizer salts can chemically burn the roots and scorch the leaf edges, actively hurting the plant you are trying to spoil. The secret is restraint, which is a theme by now, isn't it? Feed the soil with compost as your steady, gentle base. Use actual fertilizer sparingly and only to top up a specific need, and when in doubt, use less. A slightly hungry plant channels its energy into making fruit and seed. An overfed one just stands there showing off its leaves like it has nothing better to do. Secret number 8 is one of the highest reward, lowest effort moves in the entire craft of gardening, and beginners skip it constantly for one silly reason: it is not exciting. Mulch. That is it. Just covering your bare soil with a couple of inches of straw, shredded leaves, wood chips, or dry grass clippings. Unglamorous, boring, and it quietly does the work of about 4 separate chores at once, while you sit back and do absolutely nothing. It seals moisture into the soil, so you water far, far less. It blocks the sunlight that weed seeds need to sprout, so you weed far less. It insulates the soil and keeps it cool and steady through the kind of heat waves that would otherwise cook and stress your plants. And as it slowly breaks down, it feeds the soil, looping right back to secret number 1 and building the very foundation everything depends on. Bare, exposed soil is a garden quietly working against you, drying out, growing weeds, baking hard. Mulched soil is a garden working for you around the clock, for free, while you are not even out there. If secret 6 is the surprising one, mulch is the one you will kick yourself for not doing sooner. Secret number 9 will save you more plants than almost anything else on this list, and it costs you nothing but a little humility and honesty. Right plant, right place. Beginners fall head over heels in love with a particular plant, and then try to force it to live somewhere it was never ever going to thrive, purely because that is where they want it. They cram a sun-worshipping tomato into a shady corner because it looks nice there. They plant a thirsty, water-loving crop right next to a drought lover, and then try to water both the same way, guaranteeing one of them suffers. Here is the hard truth. A plant that needs 8 hours of full sun will never ever fruit properly in 4 hours, no matter how much you love it, believe in it, or talk to it. The plant does not care about your feelings. It cares about physics. The secret is to work with your reality instead of fighting it. Spend one day actually watching where the sun falls across your yard, hour by hour. Notice which spots stay soggy after rain and which dry out fast. And then, instead of forcing your favorites where you wish they would grow, match each plant to the spot that genuinely suits it. Sun lovers in your sunniest ground. Shade-tolerant greens tucked into the shade where they will actually be grateful for it. Thirsty plants in the low, damp corner. Stop trying to grow the garden you imagined and start growing the one your actual conditions are practically begging to give you. Secret number 10 is the one nobody wants to hear, but every single beginner needs to, because it is the difference between still gardening in 3 years and having quit in disgust by August. Start smaller than you want to. Every beginner, and I mean every one, myself absolutely included, gets seduced over the winter. You flip through the seed catalogs. You dream up this glorious sprawling garden. You order 20 different varieties of things you have never grown once in your life. You plant it all in a burst of spring optimism, and then reality arrives around July, when the watering and the weeding and the pests and the problems all land on you at the same time. The garden becomes a source of guilt instead of joy. Half of it gets neglected. The harvest disappoints, and you quietly conclude that you are just not cut out for this and let it all go to weeds. You are not bad at gardening. You took on more than any human being could manage as a beginner, and then blamed yourself for being human. The secret, and it is almost a life lesson, is that a small garden you actually tend will beat a huge garden you abandon every single time, without exception. Start with one bed. Grow 3 or 4 things you genuinely love to eat and will be excited to harvest. Learn them deeply, intimately, until you understand them. Rack up the small wins that keep the fire lit, and then expand next year from a place of earned confidence, instead of collapsing this year from a place of total overwhelm. Small and successful beats big and defeated. Secret number 11 is about time, and it is the quiet killer, the one that ruins more harvests than pests and disease combined, while getting almost none of the blame. Timing beats effort. You can do every other thing on this list flawlessly, but plant at the wrong moment and none of it saves you. Push your warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers out into the garden while the soil is still cold from winter, and they will just sit there, stunted and sulking, refusing to grow, sometimes struck dead by one late frost you did not see coming. Plant your cool season crops like lettuce, peas, and spinach into the building heat of early summer, and they bolt, turn bitter, and give up on you almost immediately. Here is the secret. Plants live by the calendar and the soil temperature, not by your excitement to finally get your hands in the dirt. They do not care that it feels like spring. They respond to what actually is. So learn your area's frost dates. Learn which of your crops are warm season and which are cool season, and plant each one inside its real window. I promise you this. A seed planted at exactly the right time with only mediocre care will wildly outperform a seed planted at the wrong time with the most perfect, loving care in the world. Nature writes the schedule. Your entire job is to read it correctly and work inside it, not to argue with it. And secret number 12, the one that quietly holds all 11 others together. The single thing I most wish someone had looked me in the eye and told me at the very, very beginning. Your failures are not failures. They are the curriculum. They are the class. Every plant you kill, every crop that flops, every mistake on this entire list that you are absolutely still going to make, even after watching this, none of that is evidence that you are bad at gardening. That is you learning how to garden. There is no path to becoming genuinely good at this that somehow skips over the dead plants. It does not exist. That gardener you admire so much, the one whose tomatoes look like a magazine cover, the one who seems to just instinctively know what to do, I promise you, they have a graveyard behind them that you never got to see, seasons and seasons of failure, and dead seedlings that taught them every single thing they now appear to just magically know. The only real, meaningful difference between the person with the incredible garden and the person who gave up is this. One of them kept going and let each season teach them one more lesson, and the other one quit before the lessons had finished doing their work. So do not be afraid to fail out there. That fear is the actual enemy, far more than any bug or drought. Be afraid instead of quitting before the failures have taught you what they came to teach. Plant the thing. Watch some of it die. Get curious about why. Plant it again a little wiser. That right there is the secret hiding behind all the other secrets. So there they are, all 12, the exact things I wish someone had grabbed me and told me before I burned through years believing I just did not have the touch. And I want you to notice the thread running through almost every single one, because that thread is the real deep lesson underneath the list. Great gardening is almost never about doing more. It is about doing the right things at the right time, and then having the wisdom to get out of the way. Feed the soil and let it do the growing. Read the plant and trust what its leaves are telling you. Water deep, then walk away and leave it alone. Let the bugs do their unpaid work. Let the plants struggle just enough to grow strong. Use less fertilizer, not more. Cover the ground and let the mulch labor for you. Almost every secret on this list is really at its heart about restraint, about humility, about working with nature instead of trying to overpower it with effort and worry. That single shift in how you think is the thing that quietly turns a frustrated, defeated beginner into someone who grows genuinely incredible food. And the best part is, it is completely available to you starting today in whatever small patch of ground or collection of pots you happen to have. And here is the truth about that shocking number 6, now that you have heard all the rest. It is really the whole philosophy of this list compressed into one uncomfortable idea. Stop smothering. Start trusting. The plant knows how to grow. It has known for millions of years. Your job is not to force it, but to set the conditions and then let it do what it already knows how to do. Once you feel that in your bones, gardening stops being a battle and starts being a partnership. You do not have to master all 12 of these this week. Please do not even try, because trying to do everything at once is literally secret number 10 in disguise. Just pick the one or two that hit you the hardest while you were listening. Maybe it was the deep watering. Maybe it was the bugs. Maybe, and I would bet on this one, it was number 6, about letting them struggle, and simply live those out this one season. That alone, just that, will change what comes out of your garden this year. If this handed you even one single thing you did not walk in with, then it did its job, and that is exactly what this channel is here for. So go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the notifications, because the very next video takes secret number 1 and shows you exactly how to build that rich, living black gold soil from scratch. The soil that quietly powers every other secret on this list. And before you click away, do that little thing I asked for way back at the start, if you have not already. Drop me a comment and tell me which of these 12 hit home the hardest for you. And be honest about it, because I read every single comment that comes in, and your answers are quite literally how I decide what to make next. I will see you in that next one. Now go let something struggle a little.